This is MVP, the Master's Voice podcast series from Mediabrief.com, and I'm your host and friend, Pavan Chawla. You're a very happy host and friend because in this episode, I bring you a conversation with a wonderful leader and professional, someone who's deployed his amazing professional education and experience to an amazing B2B service, or to creating an amazing B2B service under a brand that today is a unicorn. So please join me in welcoming Beerud Sheth, co-founder and CEO of Gupshup, the conversational AI unicorn headquartered in San Francisco, which is where he's speaking with me from. And thank you so much, Beerud. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pavan. Thanks for having me here. Excited to be here.
Thank you, Beerud. Thanks for the time and for the fact that you've agreed to our request to record at this hour. And what is it now? Close to midnight in San Francisco. So thank you. And thanks also to Utpreksha Jain of Aim High India and of course Yadunandan of Gupshup. Beerud, before we continue, let me tell some youngsters who might not be aware of all the great stuff you've done to sort of read out your profile to them, and then we can continue, right? So, by your leave, here goes. Beerud Sheth is an IIT-B and MIT alumnus, and he started his career working on Wall Street. Beerud is a two-time entrepreneur. He was the founder of Elance, now Upwork, a listed company on NASDAQ focusing on the gig economy. Elance was the quintessential poster boy of the gig economy even before the gig economy came to be called so, leveraging the internet to create a global services market powered by skilled freelancers. Beerud played a critical role at Elance as its founder, CEO, and the top executive till 2007, and later as a board member until the merger in 2014. The company was listed on NASDAQ in 2018. Sheth, who comes with a track record of thinking far ahead, witnessed skepticism when he started Elance, now Upwork. This was the freelance marketplace, as I told you, in the early 90s, and 2 decades after, remote working is now conventional wisdom. Sheth now believes a few years from now, we'll wonder how anyone did business without conversational messaging. Started by Beerud in 2004, from being a social network to an enterprise messaging platform, Gupshup experimented across multiple areas and finally found its mojo as a conversational messaging platform that is today powering more than 6 billion messages per month. Across verticals, thousands of large and small businesses, including the likes of Ola, ICICI, Oyo, Truecaller, Zomato, HDFC, and HSBC, use Gupshup to build conversational experiences across marketing, sales, and support. A profitable entity for the last few years, Gupshup posted a revenue upwards of $100 million USD in FY21 and is looking to better it this FY. Gupshup already has a significant presence across India, Middle East and Africa, Southeast Asia, USA and Latin America. In fact, 80 of India's 100 plus unicorns have scaled their business better and faster with Gupshup. The company has raised upwards of $340 million at a $1.4 billion valuation from an industry-leading group of investors. So that's the kind of stellar professional and promoter, Beerud Sheth, co-founder and CEO of Gupshup, who's my special guest in this episode of The Master's Voice. Beerud, welcome once again, and we can get on with our conversation now.
All right, that sounds like a lot. I don't know who you're talking about, but there was a very long profile. So let's just dive into the real stuff there.
So Beerud, let's just start with Gupshup. You recently announced a new brand identity for Gupshup. Tell us more, and also tell me what's the USP of Gupshup. I've read about it, I've done some research, and I do understand and appreciate what you do. But I'd like you to give, everybody your own short little intro and the new brand identity and why.
Sure. So I think what Gupshup does is it enables B2C or business to consumer conversational engagement, right? It enables conversations and commerce between businesses and consumers. And we do it, the tagline we use is one-on-one with everyone, meaning you have personalized interactions, personalized chats on a massive scale. Okay. So let's just break down each of these terms, right? What does it mean to do conversational engagement between businesses and consumers? When you think about an e-commerce platform or a bank or an airline and so on, as they run their business, they need to communicate with consumers all the time, right? So a bank might send a message saying, your balance is so-and-so, or your payment is due. An e-commerce company would say, your order is confirmed, your package is shipped. An airline might say your flight is delayed, or things like that, right? And traditionally, these were just simple one-way message notifications. typically through SMS, right? But since then, there have been a lot of new messaging technologies that have emerged, such as WhatsApp, such as RCS, such as Instagram and GIP, which is something Gupshup launched, and so on. So there's many different channels. And the cool thing about these newer channels is that they are richer. So you can have images, you can have interactive buttons, and especially you can do two-way conversations. So now when you can do two-way conversation, then the user, when they receive a message, could, for example, make the bill payment just by clicking on the message, or they can reschedule the package delivery, they can upgrade the flight and things like that, right? So I think it really, we'll talk more about it, but this is how businesses engage with their consumers. And we provide the platform that enables businesses to do so in very rich and engaging ways that drives a lot of revenues and profit and so on for businesses, but it also drives a lot of convenience for consumers.
Right. So the new brand identity you said was one-on-one with everyone.
Yeah. So I think, Gupshup's been around a long time, and I think we wanted to refine the message. We wanted to refine the tagline. We wanted to refresh the colors. And in particular, Gupshup has expanded a lot, right? I think previously people would, because Gupshup has evolved a lot, because underlying messaging technology itself has evolved a lot.
Right.
So traditionally it was all about SMS, but now it's a lot more about richer IP-based, internet protocol-based messaging channels. It's about conversational experiences. It's also about text and voice. We'll talk more about it, but Gupshup recently acquired a company called Nolarity, which is a voice leader.
Right.
So the scope of what Gupshup does has expanded a lot. And then also, conversational chatbots and rich experiences and so on. So as the scope of the company has expanded a lot, we just, figured it would make sense to really re-articulate what we are about, to position it more clearly in front of audiences. And we're very excited. We are conveying a new message, and over time, we expect the industry and customers to appreciate that as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And in fact, you partly answered my next question, which was like, with 2 back-to-back acquisitions in less than 6 months, what is your expanded product stack going to look like or looking like? So you might as well tell me a little more about this.
Oh, we've announced 2, but there's a few more in the pipeline. So, I think we've been pretty busy.
Yeah.
I think, the way we think about it is, well, firstly, the acquisition, we acquired a company called .go, which is a leader in RCS technology. Okay. And then we acquired a company called Nolarity, which is a leader in voice technology. It enables, call center, cloud-based contact centers. It also enables customer-to-customer connection. For example, when the delivery person from your food delivery service needs to talk to the consumer, right? And you have lots of these two-way conversations happening, but the business needs to record these conversations and make sure, they need to keep privacy. They don't want people exchanging numbers. So these are the kind of services provided by Nolarity. Anyway, so they add voice, right? So these 2 companies really augment the Gupshup product stack. I think when we think about our product stack, there are maybe, let's say 2 or 3 layers of the stack. The bottom layer is what many analysts call CPaaS, which is a technical term, but it's just communication platform as a service, right? What it means is we provide APIs to connect with many messaging channels, such as SMS, such as voice, such as WhatsApp, such as Instagram, and so on. There are like 30 plus messaging channels, right? So that's sort of the bottom layer of the stack, which just provides connectivity. And then once a business sets up connectivity, they then need to be able to do something with it when the user responds to a message, right? When the user sends a query, a business has to understand the query, figure out the response, and then send it back to the user. So this is where the next layer of the stack comes in. And these are tools to build these rich sort of conversational experiences, to build journeys, to build chatbots, and so on. So that's sort of the layer of the stack, which provides tools for marketing, for commerce, and for customer support, and so on. And then there's some specialization even beyond that for by industry vertical, by geography and region, and so on. So I think that's the way we think about the product stack. And Gupshup is strong in many areas of it, but wherever we find the need to augment it and fill some gaps, or really be the leader in that particular area, we are happy to acquire companies selectively. I mean, we do it carefully. There's a thorough evaluation process and so on. But, we are just eager to get out there quickly. Time to market is important. The need to scale is important. And our customers are demanding a lot of these things. So we want to cater to those requests very quickly.
Excellent. You've been on an amazing growth curve and very beautifully ahead of the curve on, technology and how it can be deployed and how AI can be deployed. And you're really doing that beautifully. So really, really very exciting, and congratulations on all that you've done so far, Beerud.
Thank you.
So, Beerud, what's changed after Gupshup became a unicorn? Are you planning more fundraising? When is the IPO?
Firstly, what's changed? In some ways a lot, and in some ways nothing at all, right? I think our vision, our goal has remained the same, and it continues to be the same, right? So because that's the North Star, we want to, like I said, enable conversational engagement for business to consumer interactions, right?
Right.
That vision sort of remains the same. But on the other hand, we've gotten a lot more resources, right? A lot more investor funds to be able to invest in driving the growth of our business. So, for example, a year ago, we were about 200 people. Now we are 1,200 people.
Wow.
We were in 5 countries. Now we are in 40 countries.
Wow.
We had sort of a smaller product suite, but now we have a much more enlarged and comprehensive product suite. We've acquired companies as well. We've been able to grow with a lot of confidence. We've been able to really invest in achieving this whole grand vision and sort of cater to our customer needs, right? And deliver more of those. So I think in that sense, Pavan, I think, we are really accelerating the growth of our business. Maybe one thing I should also add, what hasn't changed, right? There's a lot of media buzz around this unicorn status, unicorn label, as if it's like a new, arrival, as if like you've arrived and it's a big status symbol and so on. Honestly, for me, I think some of that excitement is a little misplaced. It's a great milestone, and the ability to be able to scale your business and invest in it and get the media coverage and attract employees and more customers is great. But on the other hand, if you get carried away, get arrogant, then you start defocusing on what you need to do, and that can be a huge problem. So one of the things we try to do is sort of ignore the frothy, euphoric excitement around the money part, but really just sort of focus on keep your eye on the ball, keep executing and so on. So I think that's really what's changed for us.
All right. And then now, you said you're awash with funds. You didn't say awash. That's my word. And you have so much more that you can really deploy in terms of resources to take forward your vision. And before I continue with my question, I must compliment you on the fact that the 2 wonderful entrepreneurial decisions that you took were both category creating, Elance and now Gupshup. So that's really amazing, and I doff my hat to you. Now, the second question, which actually is, I'm just repeating the second part of my previous question, which is, are you planning more fundraising, and when is the IPO?
You asked about the IPO. I think Gupshup will probably do an IPO in a year's time frame, right? Give or take. But again, that depends on the markets, right? As you know, there are absolutely no IPOs happening right now.
Yeah.
Because of the volatility in the market. So, we'll see, Pavan. We'll see whenever the markets open up. I think the important point is we want to be ready in a year.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it's purely a B2B service. And I think the names that I mentioned and the ones that I know, 80% or 80 of India's 100 plus unicorns have actually been using Gupshup to empower themselves better, to create better and better engagements with their consumers to empower their businesses even further. So definitely you go to the biggest ones. Now, does Gupshup have a model also for even the smallest sized kind of enterprise or initiative? It could be a one branch entity, or, how do you spread yourself, or are you looking at that? Have you concentrated more on the bigger ones first, and now will you be looking at the smaller ones also as a specialist service and facility available to them?
So, Pavan, traditionally, Gupshup was focused a little more on the enterprise side, right? Larger customers, the top of the pyramid, if you will, because that's where SMS volumes used to be, right? And they were the biggest users of messaging platforms.
Sure.
Now, with all of these newer technologies where you can not only send out notifications, but you can actually do commerce and transactions and customer support and so on, we're starting to see even small businesses such as, restaurants and retailers and so on, pharmacies and so on, starting to, use these technologies. So yes, Gupshup is focusing on both mid-market and SMB, small and medium businesses as well. But it takes a slightly different approach to target those sort of customer segments, right? Because now you can't use the same model of field sales with lots and lots of salespeople out there because, on the mid-market and the low end, there are millions of businesses. So what Gupshup has done is, we are sort of building self-serve tools and solutions. So any business can just come to our website and set up whatever they need to do. And we've tried to make it as simple and easy as possible. A few clicks and they can just sort of do it. Then we also work with a lot of partners who can help these sort of businesses use Gupshup solutions and so on. So I think this whole idea of something called product-led growth, right? And that's the philosophy that we are adopting. And product-led growth means you design your product and your processes in such a way that product sells itself. The product can be used by itself. Any business can come in there, put their credit card, and just get going without human intervention. That's the way to cater to sort of the lower end of the market, and that's what we're doing, and it's working very well. I mean, we've scaled. We've added tens of thousands of new businesses just over the last year or two. Totally now we're about like 45 to 50,000 businesses and growing very rapidly.
Wonderful, really superb. Okay, so now give me the infographic. What's your total customer base? Any interesting stats or trivia you can share about Gupshup? Number of messages per month, number of consumers touched, etc.
Yeah, so Gupshup has about 45 to 50,000 customers in total.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, sort of most of the top unicorns, in particular, digital native companies, and then even banks and other standard businesses, they depend on Gupshup for their growth and messaging. We handle, about 8 to 10 billion messages a month.
Wow.
So it's a very high scale platform that's across different channels, SMS, WhatsApp, RCS, and other channels as well.
Yeah.
What else? There's, the number of developers using our platform is probably higher. It's over 100,000 developers, right, using it. And sometimes there can be more developers from a company, or some of them are just using it for free, so they may not be a paid customer. So they handle that as well. Like I mentioned, we have customers in almost 100 plus countries. So it's a very global customer base. We have teams in about, 40 plus countries right now. And typically these are small teams, right? So they are either for evangelism or customer support in local languages and local time zones.
Wonderful. All those numbers pertain to Gupshup, and they're coming to us from Beerud Sheth, co-founder and CEO, who I'm speaking with in this episode of The Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com. Beerud, let's go on to the pandemic. How can I not talk about it? How did you weather the challenges? How did Gupshup weather the challenges that were brought about by the pandemic? And how did you help customers manage the situation?
Pavan, anytime there's a disruption of any kind, and the pandemic was a huge one, it always brings both threats and opportunities, right? And I think you have to keep your eyes open for both.
Right.
So certainly in terms of threats and challenges, we had to instantly go remote, right? Everybody had to work remotely, could not travel, could not meet face-to-face, either with our internal teams or externally with customers. I think a lot of processes had to change, right? Has to be more documented, more formal, Zoom fatigue, and so on, right? Those were the challenges. But on the flip side, we also noticed a lot of opportunities, right? I think even employees and their family members got sick and had, faced a lot of serious personal and health challenges as well, right? So, and it was unfortunate, and not to mention our customers and so on. So that was all on the challenges side of the equation, right? But I think it also threw up a lot of opportunities in a way, because the whole world sort of moved to the digital version, because consumers were not walking into malls or into stores or restaurants. They were all shopping online, so it was everything, right? E-commerce, e-entertainment, remote ordering, things like that. So when that happens, it drives huge growth in messaging, right? Messaging is an important part. There are more orders, more confirmations, more transactions happening online, and it actually dramatically increased volume and revenues on the one hand, but it also required us to. It was a challenge in terms of scaling our infrastructure to handle the increased load and demand for it. So ultimately, I think, Pavan, you sort of two sides of the coin, right? And I think you have to adjust to both. You sort of mitigate the challenges and you take advantage of the opportunities. And I think net, we've come out well ahead of where we were pre-pandemic.
Wonderful. Well done. So, Beerud, how are brands now, in your view, coping with the new normal? I guess they're probably going the same route, the wise ones that you just, outlined, about looking at both the challenges and the opportunities and trying to be in there, put their best foot forward, whatever they can do. But any advice for, brand custodians in the new normal? I mean, it's a bit of a hackneyed phrase now, this new normal. But a lot of it will definitely sort of embed itself in the future BAU also. What's your view on that and how brands should look at what's going to be unfolding in the rest of 2022?
Yes, Pavan. I think brands have to really focus on the conversational medium as a fresh new way to engage with consumers in a very rich and interactive way.
Right.
They may have looked at it before to messaging, and in a world of messaging where SMS was the only option, and SMS is very limited, to 160 characters of plain text with no two-way interaction, then it's very limiting. But today, it's completely changed, right? It's over the last couple of years. So whether it's WhatsApp or RCS or Instagram or other messaging channels, it's much richer, more interactive, all the kind of rich experiences that can be delivered on web and mobile apps are now possible to deliver through a messaging experience. And then the tools have gotten a lot better as well. Gupshup and other companies also are building richer tools, for example, conversational AI, right? The ability to have rich, advanced two-way conversation with consumers in a very natural and intuitive way.
Right.
I think that technology, the state of the art in AI has emerged and grown a lot. Consequently, I think brands have to look at this because it's a huge step function in capability. It gives brands the ability to have personalized interactions with millions of customers, right? It's as if you could put a brand ambassador in front of every customer, right? And that's very hard.
It's hyper targeting of one. Every individual is completely known and you're obviously responding to their need or their query or whatever. So nothing could be more relevant than that. You're absolutely right. In fact, you also answered my next question, which was, what can brands do to get their CX strategy right and how can conversational AI help? And you just gave me that beautiful answer very succinctly.
Think about it, Pavan, right?
Yeah.
What does your bank do? Or what does a bank do for its top tier, premier customers, right? It gives everybody a personal relationship manager, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're a store, right? What would they do for the best customers? They'd give them a personal shopping assistant, for example, and so on. Even airlines and so on, right? For their premium customers, they'll give them, personalized service. Well, imagine if businesses could provide these relationship managers or shopping assistants or any kind of advisor, investment advisor and so on, and make it available to every customer, right?
Yeah.
That suddenly dramatically improves the level of engagement, the level of satisfaction, customer satisfaction, and also drives more business, right? More profits, more capability, and so on. So that's really the opportunity for brands to, really build these very delightful, personalized, intimate experiences with their customers, which leads to all kinds of good outcomes.
Absolutely. Tell me, Beerud, I know that even a lot of media and entertainment, broadcasting, digital marketing, and there are such big brands, production houses, movie makers, channels, publishers, they would definitely have need for this kind of conversational AI-based B2B conversations with customers. So which are the brands in India or globally that from media and entertainment that Gupshup is already empowering?
like I said, tens of thousands of businesses across all kinds of brands. So I think, for example, we are working with Netflix in Turkey, where they actually used, they were sending out stickers about their shows to consumers. And in fact, when they announced it on Twitter, they actually had 1 million users literally within the next few hours, interacting in a very powerful way. So I think that's just one sort of unique and delightful example. But we've had other kinds of, like say billboard companies have put, QR codes on those billboards that consumers can interact with. I think we've had TV and entertainment programs adding interactive elements into these TV shows and so on. I think even sort of in the offline media, like say in railway trains, they put QR codes that provide information about travel destinations and so on, right? So I think there's all kinds of, even in print medium, we've seen, QR codes being published that allow you to bring, richer interaction and communication. So I think we've had some movies launches leveraging this capability as well. So I think the possibilities are endless.
Okay. And a lot more brands to target in India for you, right? In the media and entertainment space?
Absolutely. I think, sometimes people are too busy to realize the new emerging opportunities and technologies as it impacts them. Sometimes it takes a little bit of education to get the first customer, but soon as that becomes a case study, a reference customer, suddenly everybody starts adopting, right? I think there's a little bit of a herd instinct that inevitably comes up, right? So I think we always try to do that, which is, we bring innovative cases to some customers that like new ideas. And then once they develop it, take it to all kinds of other companies as well.
So how is Gupshup marketing itself amongst those kind of potential customers who may not be really kicked about the fact or not aware about the fact that Gupshup can bring amazing, or a Gupshup kind of service and provider can bring amazing resilience and relevance to their businesses and their customers mutually? So how are you marketing yourself in India?
There's many different ways to get the word out. Certainly, PR is one part of it, but we engage, in all kinds of sessions. Sometimes it's sort of, CEO interaction. Sometimes it's a sales team reaching out. Sometimes it's through our investor networks and so on.
Sure.
Yeah, I think, or sometimes we'll create some showcases, and demos to illustrate what's possible, right? So I think it's sort of this is one of the classic challenges. Look, I've been in the innovation business for like 25 years, right? And what I mean by that is, whenever you come up with a new product that nobody's ever seen, nobody's ever experienced, it's always challenging. Like, how do you get the first few customers for anything that's brand new, right? And
create the category.
Yeah, so it's category creating, it's innovative, and therefore, what you have to do is you have to approach it. Basically, you have to be humble and hungry, right? Is the simplest way I would put it.
Well said.
You have to reach out to a lot of people, and most people generally would say no because, anything new, the default instinct for most people is like, no, has anybody done it? Who's done it? What if it fails? What if it's wrong, etc. But then you have to listen carefully with humility, saying, okay, well, what are the real concerns, right? What can we do to change your mind? Okay, what are you worried about? How can we remove any risk factors for you? And so on and on and on. This is sort of entrepreneurship 101, right?
Yeah.
Typically, a tech entrepreneur is bringing brand new products. And when you're bringing that, you have to figure out what's the right way to take it out there. So I think it's a combination of things.
Yeah. And in this B2B specific and subsector specific approach or service that you're offering, it's obviously much, much better to be one-to-one rather than spray and pray. But I also want to ask you one more question. I've seen this. Sometimes you create a service that's really interesting, but I feel that using the top-down approach, the ownerships, the promoter, the MD, and the C-suite leaders first, rather than the mid-level people who may not understand something or who may even say, no, let's just be safe. I don't know if my boss is going to like it. I'm not saying people are like that. Everybody is smart. Everybody is hungry and smart. But very often I've seen friends of mine and other business leaders saying, it's always better if at a senior level you go to the top sort of couple of people there. And once they buy into it, then the rest of the system can scramble and say, this is where we can use it and this is how we can go about it. What works better for you traditionally?
So I might actually disagree with you, Pavan, right? A little bit.
Okay.
I would actually say there are two kinds of companies, right? There are new age innovative companies, right? And they tend to be, very entrepreneurial at every level. And you have individual developers who are eager to try out new stuff, and they're looking for APIs, and they're learning and implementing. And by the way, trying something new is a way for them to show, their managers or inside the organization saying, look, I created something new, I created something cool.
Right.
And Gupshup focuses on just providing very simple and easy API, so anybody can use it at no cost, can get started at a very, very low cost, right? So they can create the demo and show it internally and build consensus, right?
Okay.
And then there are other kinds of companies which do have this hierarchical culture. So those, for those companies, you do have to go in at the top because others may not want to take the risk of it being wrong and so on. So it really depends on the culture of the company. Now, even, I think the way it's going, a lot of the traditional companies are also evolving to these newer cultures because that's the only way to innovate, right? In the innovation business, nobody has a monopoly on ideas.
Correct.
Good ideas could come at any level inside the organization. And I think if you can pick it up and drive with it, so that's the reason why in an earlier question I said, at Gupshup, we focus on doing different things, right? Firstly, just having an easy to use, simple product allows this bottom-up innovation. And then at a senior level, it could be, PR or exec level engagement or sales that drives it.
Excellent. So a youngster walks into you an elevator and sees you there and recognizes you and says, "Sir, I want to apply to Gupshup. Tell me, what is the work culture there? And what are the 3 things or 2 things or 1 thing or 5 things that will be a deal breaker if I don't have them in me when you talk to me?"
So let me talk about Gupshup culture and values a little bit. And, we use a little acronym, SPACE, SPACE, if you will. And it's really, you speak up, right? S for speak up. We want, traditionally you get, young students in the Indian education system who go, yes, sir. And we try to inculcate a no, sir culture, right? Which is think for yourself. Don't just follow what the boss says, listen to the customer, think about what the right thing is, and then do it because, every person may have the right context. So that's speak up. The other is perseverant, right? You have to persevere. Business is hard. Things can be difficult. Not everything will work or work nicely. And, we can't be afraid of it. In fact, the story of Gupshup has been the story of perseverance, right? And even the story of Elance, because these things have taken 15 to 20 years and we've struggled and overcome a lot of challenges, right? So you have to be perseverant, you have to be gritty and so on. A is for attention to detail, right? Taking pride in our work. Every email, every slide that goes out to customers, every interaction, it has to be intelligent and, precise and provide the right support and so on. I think C is just customer centricity, right? Focus on the customer. The customer is the real boss, not your manager, right?
Yeah.
Let's serve the customers and do it right. And finally, E is really entrepreneurial. We like to be very entrepreneurial, very innovative, agile, figure out creative solutions. We are not too fond of hierarchy or politics, internal politics, or creating silos. So you set up the organization and the processes to achieve the objective, which is to meet the customer need, to be out there quick, be the first to market, and so on. And I think those are some of the key values that we sort of hold very, very dear. And this phrase of being humble and hungry kind of captures a lot of these attributes, right? We do everything with humility and trying to learn, trying to understand if something doesn't work, why didn't it work, right? So because that's the only way to figure out how to improve things. But very hungry, very aggressive. We'll do whatever it takes, however long it takes. I'll do a podcast at midnight if that's what it takes, to get things done.
Yes, thank you for doing it at midnight your time.
So that's what Gupshup is all about.
Absolutely. That was a really wonderful and very insightful, short little deep dive. I know these are oxymorons together, but really extremely, extremely good. Very interesting indeed. So, Beerud, 2 more questions. Where do you see conversational AI headed? Take a 2025 view, and what after Gupshup? What's the next thing Beerud Sheth is going to do?
So I think, Pavan, conversational AI is the future, right? It's the ultimate logical evolution of computer interfaces. And let me explain what I mean by that, right? If you look at traditional interfaces like desktop apps or websites or mobile apps, all of them require humans to behave like computers, right? Because you click on a button, you click on a tab or a screen, and then something happens. But conversational AI and conversational experiences are the first time where now computers behave like humans, right? They're going to have a natural conversation like you and I are having right now. So this is about as natural, intuitive, like humans know how to converse since we've been toddlers, right? Since we're babies. So I think nothing can get easier than that, right? So I think this is in some sense, the most evolved and advanced form of customer experience. And, every business, every website, every app, every digital experience, I think will become more and more conversational over time. It's delightful. So think of it as if, we'll be surrounded by a world where every business, every brand will have a relationship manager, a personal shopper, a trusted advisor, a virtual doctor, a therapist, a guide, a tour guide, and on and on. And these are sort of conversational agents that you can have conversations with. I think, who knows, we might end up in a world where each of us are more virtual friends than we might have human friends. But it's even better, right? Because these virtual friends are very knowledgeable. They're always accessible. They pamper you to death, right? They're highly personalized any time of the day or night, and they know what you want when you want, and they take care of things, make your life easier, perhaps freeing you up to spend more time with friends and family. So I think that's the future, that's where we're headed. And there's a lot of work to be done. I don't know if that's 2025, probably, even a little beyond that, but it's a huge opportunity. And, Gupshup's goal is to enable all of it, be the platform, the leading platform that enables it. And we are best positioned to do that. As far as life after Gupshup, I mean, that's beyond my planning horizon, honestly. It's the curvature of the earth, and you can't see behind, what's behind that. And it's a little bit like that.
Well said.
We'll see. I mean, I have a lot of goals and ambitions as well over time, right, Pavan? I mean, I think, and I do that. They're not mutually exclusive. Even as I'm, running Gupshup, I love to, give back to entrepreneurs, just like other entrepreneurs have helped me. I invest, I occasionally advise. I mean, I don't have a lot of time, right? So that's a constraint, but I do try to help and give back as much as I can, working on education, the schools that supported me and helped me. And I'll get more involved in all of these activities as well, as I go along. But I do believe that a successful business itself can actually be a great contributor to society. In fact, I think entrepreneurship is the ultimate prosperity generating machine, right? It can create enormous value add in society. It can create livelihoods and jobs and economic value and customer convenience and, improve users' life and economic value for country and society. So, you don't need to, stop working to do, good. You can do both together.
Wow, Beerud, wonderful. I really enjoyed our conversation, and the guidance that you've given to youngsters, sort of contained in the SPACE acronym, is amazing. Speak up, persevere, pay attention to detail, be customer centric, and above all, as a result of all these things, be entrepreneurial. And that's the DNA that I think not just people at Gupshup, which is a huge and a wonderful company doing great work, but everybody who's listening to this podcast, everybody who's an aspiring professional or a practicing professional really should have these and inculcate these qualities. So thank you very much indeed. Lots of insights. I enjoyed the conversation, your forthrightness, and the knowledge and insights that you brought in. Thanks to all your experience. So what did you think of our little chat so far?
Yeah, Pavan, I really enjoyed it. I do a lot of podcasts, but, the master's voice and, what you've done, I think this conversation was very thought-provoking questions, right? That sort of, in a way, forced me to dig deep, to try and elaborate on some things that you take for granted, not so obvious insights or sometimes counterintuitive insights as well. We are fans of the content you put out on Mediabrief as well. So really appreciate that. And Pavan, I enjoyed our conversation, right? Thank you so much for not just having me here, but forcing me to think through and provide some deep insights. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Beerud. Thank you for your time. It is now maybe past 1 a.m. where you are in San Francisco. So thank you ever so much for all the time and the emotional investment you gave into this podcast. And thanks also to Preksha Jain of AMI India. And of course, Yadunandan, the wonderful effervescent guy you have leading communications at Gupshup. And Beerud, your presence has really elevated the stature of MVP, The Master's Voice, the podcast series on Mediabrief.com. Once again, thank you very much.
Thanks, Pavan. Thank you.
Beerud Sheth, co-founder and CEO of Gupshup, the conversational AI unicorn headquartered in San Francisco and servicing and serving thousands and thousands of developers across companies across the world, was my distinguished guest on this episode of MVP, The Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com. I found this conversation extremely insightful and very helpful, and I hope and I'm sure that everyone who listens to this podcast will definitely agree with me. Till we meet again in the next episode of MVP, The Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com, this is your host and friend Pavan Chawla saying, take care, stay safe, test negative, but always remain positive. Bye-bye.
Sitting squarely in the groove.